Hi guys, so I've got a new project to show you. This one's using illuminated photo frames, intelligently illuminated photo frames. Now that sounds a bit weird, doesn't it? But what I mean is it's just going to be some photo frames, like these ones here. This is a little bit of reflection going on there. This is a Ribber photo frame from IKEA, and it's a box frame, so it's really deep. I think it's probably about an inch deep. In practice, it probably says on here. Does it? No, it doesn't. Anyway, it's quite deep, roughly the depth of the box, just about. And you can take the back off, and you can move the insert forward so it sits at the front of the glass there. And I'll show you one that I've done that with. So you can move the mount, the square mount there to the front, and put a picture there. Now on the back you can see that, actually you can see there's sort of like a lit up section where the light is hitting it. Now that's the square at the front, illuminating the picture from the back, and from the back of there. And I've sort of just taped it on. Now what I'm doing with these is, on the back I'm putting some LED strip. Now that comes in a roll like this, if I can get it out, here we go. And it's a strip of LEDs. Now these ones are waterproof ones. These are SMD 5050 LEDs, or 3850. I think they're 3850 actually. And you can connect these with wires on a board like this. I'll show you how to do this in a second. But it means that you can just power them from these two bits here. When you buy a kit of these, when you buy a kit of these, it will come on a roll like this, and you'll also get a power adapter. Now I'll show you one that I've already plugged in and wired up. Now this one's actually on, and you can see it's on. Oh, it's upside down. You can see it's on. Let me just turn it off so you can see the difference. So that's it off. I'm looking at the preview window if you're wondering where my eyes go. And there it is on again. Now they work pretty well in the daylight, but they look a lot better at night. And on the back you can see it's relatively clean. You've just got this cable hanging off to the adapter, which is just a normal sort of pin adapter, plug pin adapter. And it has some screws here to attach them. Let's get a bit of a closer up of this. Closer up, close up. So you can see they look pretty good just with one plugged in. And it's relatively easy to do. If you're going to buy these, they're really quite expensive. If you want to buy an illuminated photo frame, just search for it on the internet. It's not actually very easy to find, and if you do find them, they're quite expensive. Now the strip LED stuff, which I've lost, now the strip LED stuff, sorry, I did lose it. Now this stuff here, it cost me about £12 delivered off eBay. I won't be able to find you a link, but I'll give you the exact title for it. And an adapter. It cost me about £12 to buy. And it got me 5 meters of this stuff. So it's pretty long. And as you can see on this here, I'm not using an awful lot. That's maybe 70 centimeters worth there probably. And you don't even need all that much. If you only wanted to illuminate just that small portion on here, that small square, you'd only need to put lines enough to cover that. Now I've put plenty more on here so that I could illuminate the whole thing and take out that square mount if I wanted to. But at the moment I'm just using the square. So you could make an awful lot of these things from just 10 meters of the LED strip. And these can be soldered onto each other. You can cut these every, I think, 3 rows, 3 LEDs. There's cut points on here. And you just snip that and then take off the waterproof coating. Now I wish I hadn't bought the waterproof one because it's just a lot more annoying. But it does mean that you can put it in a kitchen, underneath some cupboards, and you could have steam on it and it wouldn't matter. Now, what am I going to do with these? Well, I want them to be intelligently illuminated. It's brilliant I mucked up that word, isn't it? I want them to be intelligently illuminated. So that means I'm going to use the Arduino, obviously. I'm going to plug it in via this adapter, which is rated at 2 amps and it kicks out 12 volts. So, and that's to power the LEDs, but it will power the 5-metre strip, which means I can connect them in any way I want and power them all. Now, I anticipate getting 4 of these done and still having a lot of LEDs left over. And I want to be able to illuminate them individually. Now, to do that, you could use a relay, but I'm going to use a transistor. Let me just get one. I've got 2 transistors, 2 different types, only because I got some for free and I had to buy some. So this one here is a TIP31A, and it's perfectly powerful enough, or perfectly within the limits of the 12 volt and 2 amp adapter that I've got. I'm only using it as a switch, I'm not going to use it to amplify anything. And the other one I've got, which I bought from Maplin, and I think it's about £1.20, something like that. It's a BDX33C, and again, that's perfectly acceptable for what I need. Plenty of transistors will be perfectly fine for 12 volts and 2 amps. Just if you're using them just as a switch, you don't need to amplify anything in this sort of project, so you're just going to use them as a switch. And you can also use pulse width modulation from the Arduino, so that you can turn this on and off really, really quickly and dim the LEDs, which is great if you're going to do it with some lighting. So if you wanted it to react to the ambient lighting of the room, for example, so it's daylight today, you don't really want the LEDs to light up in the daytime, or maybe you do, but you can use a light dependent resistor and allow that to change the pulse width modulation on the pins. But I'm going to be using it so I can turn them on and off dependent on another sensor. Now, I was going to use RFID, and I still am, but unfortunately I only have one RFID token key fob thing. I was meant to get 5, but they only sent me 1, so I've only got one of those. But what I'm going to do instead is a clap switch using electret microphone. I can't speak today, I'm finding it really difficult. Anyway, I want it to be able to, so if I just clap, it will turn on. And we'll see if that works out. But at the moment, I'm just going to show you how to set up these as just illuminated photo frames that you can just plug in. Now, total cost of these is under £10, which is very, very, very good. And you can use standard photos in them too, so you don't need to get anything special printed. There's no Duratrans or anything like that involved. So you don't need some kind of OHP thing to go over the top. It's pretty awesome. It's one of my favourite projects. So purely because it just looks aesthetically pleasing. That's basically it. But I'll get on to showing you how to solder these things and cut up the LED strip, and we'll have a look how that works. Okay, so the first thing we want to do with our frame is take the back off. It's a bit noisy, sorry. So this is the section we're going to put the LEDs on. And once we dismantle it, you'll see that the glass is here. I'm going to keep that safe. I'm going to put that back into the other section. Now, it might be worth cleaning the glass before you put it all back together again. You get this little section here, which is just slightly smaller than the frame. And if you wanted to change the position so that the mount is at the front, you would just put that in with the mount at the bottom. But if you want it like we do with the... If you wanted to have it so that the picture's at the front, you'd put the picture in first and then the square on top, which is what we want to do. So I'm just going to put that aside for now. And this is the cardboard mount, and that's where your picture's going to be stuck to the back so that it will shine through there. So we can put all of that out of the way for now. Now we've got our little cardboard MDF type bit of board that goes on the back. And luckily they've cut off the corner point here so that we can get some wires out if we need to. I think it's there so that you can peel this off, but actually it's really useful for this. So what we want to do is we want to measure out our LED strip. And it looks like we need 3, 6, 9, 12 LEDs per row, and I'm going to put 4 of these going down. So I need to get a pair of scissors, hold on. So I've got a pair of scissors, so we want to count across, but you can just do it by eye, which is what I'm going to do. So I'm going to cut there, just here, and there are cut points here, so I'm just going to snip it off with a normal pair of scissors. Now what's great about this LED strip is that it has an adhesive backing, so you can peel this back off here, and then it's got a sticky section here, so that means you can glue it straight to the back of here, which is great. So I'm going to go ahead and cut a few more of these. Right, so once you've cut all your sections, you can just lay them out. If you just do it by eye, which is what I've done, you could measure it if you wanted it to be exact. But these LEDs have quite a wide throw distance, so they'll illuminate quite far around them, so you don't need to worry too much about how exact you're being. Now again, if you wanted to just illuminate that small square, you would only need to do it with that much. So actually I would bunch these in together a little bit, and you would only need to use that many LEDs, so that's those bits there. So really you could make an awful lot of photo frames just from that LED strip that you bought for £12. But I want to illuminate the whole thing, sort of future-proofing myself. So I'll go ahead and stick these on. Oh, before you do that actually, one important thing is to line up the positive and negative so that when you daisy chain them, they're all in the right orientation. So we want them all to be around the right orientation. So at the top here, they're marked. Let's see if I can show you. So you can see it's got positive there and negative there. And we want to daisy chain them, so they need to all be in the same orientation. So I'm going to glue the first one on with positive at the top. So I'll just peel that back. And if I make sure it's roughly in the middle, like that, then it should be fine. And I'll go ahead and do the rest of those. Actually, I sort of missed out a step here. This probably isn't the easiest way to do it. Because I haven't taken the waterproof coating off the ends, you probably need to do that first before you glue them on here. So I've made a little bit of a mistake there, and I'll rectify that in a second. But I'll first show you how to remove the waterproof coating. Right, to remove the waterproof coating, we've got our bit of LED strip here, and I'm just going to use a Stanley knife, and I'm just going to make a very small cut. I'm not going to press down too hard because I don't want to ruin the copper tracks underneath, but I do just want to start peeling some of this away. So it's very gentle to start with. If you haven't done it enough, you can just go back again and do a bit more. And then if I just peel it down like that, I've cut enough away so that I can just pull it off like that. And that exposes these copper tracks here that you can solder directly onto. So I'm going to do that with all of these, and then we'll come back and have a look where we are, and then we can stick them onto the board. Right, now I've cut all the sections off, all the little bits that are on these, the ends there, they've all been cut off, and I've aligned them all so it's positive, negative on the top, negative on the bottom, along the line here, so that we can daisy chain them around. Now we need to get soldering. Now I've got a variable speed, oh, can't really see that, can you? Variable speed, so variable speed? I think I mean variable heat soldering iron, which is really useful. I need to wet this little pad here so that I can clean my soldering iron, and then we'll get started. Before we make our first connection, I'd like to just demonstrate how you're going to daisy chain these together. Now I've got the completed board here. And again, I've put positive at the top and negative at the bottom. Now to daisy, I know it looks a bit of a mess because it is. Soldering these isn't the easiest thing in the world. What we're going to do is connect every positive to every positive, like this, all the way to the end. So running along here, we've got positive at the top, it comes down to positive on this bottom section here, positive there, to positive there, and again running like that. And the same with the negative, down here so that the current can flow. Now, oddly, current flows from the negative to the positive, but we always say it the other way around because of convention. So the positive is the current going through, but actually it goes backwards. It's weird. Anyway, so that's what we're going to do. So we're going to make our first connections around here, just because that's where I've set up the camera and it's easiest to see, I think. So, let's see if this soldering iron's hot yet. Right, it's pretty hot. Let's see if we can just tin it up a little bit. Now I'm just using lead-free solder. Now some people say it's not very good, but I'm not going to get the horrible toxic fumes, so yeah, it's tinning up okay. Now it's probably best to open a window when you're doing this. Unfortunately, I live on a busy road, so it would be noisy in here if I did that. Now what I want to do first is I'm just going to heat up the pad and make sure there's none of that plastic left on it. It'll burn away on the soldering iron if there is. So I just want to get rid of any of that. And then we're going to need to get some wire. So we only need a small bit of wire, so let's just focus this in so you can see it. All I've got here is just a little bit of wire with a tiny bit stripped off at the end, just copper solid core wire. And we're going to solder it directly onto here. Now, it's not the easiest thing to do because I've got to hold the wire, solder and hold the soldering iron and apply some solder at the same time. And this wire needs to curl round to the bottom positive. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to bend each section of the wire a little bit so it sort of matches up. So there we go, let's just try this for the first time. Now I'm going to heat up both of the contacts, or both of the wire and the solder, and I'm going to feed solder onto the soldering iron. I think that's made a connection. It has. It didn't look great. I think my soldering iron is a little bit dirty. I could do with some sanding of that tip a little bit, I think. But the connection is on there, it's holding, so it's not coming off. So I know that it's made a solid connection. Now we want to solder it to the next positive. Now this is a difficult bit because you're using a small bit of wire to connect to a tiny, tiny pad. And you've got to keep it in the right place, so it's a bit difficult. Alright, that should do. So I'm going to come along with the soldering iron again. And I'm just going to hold down on the wire and then feed the solder onto the pad and to the soldering iron. So just let it heat up for a second, and then I can apply the solder. There we go, and that's made another solid connection. So I'm going to go ahead and do all of these so that you can see. The most difficult part is doing the minus on these sides, the negative, because you're soldering really, really close to some other things you've already soldered. In fact, I'll show you that as well. So we just need to get a bit more wire. I'm going to use green for this bit. So we need to take off a very small bit and just roughly measure up where you need it to go. Because that wire is not really long enough to wrap around my hand, I'm just going to use that. There we go. So we've got another small bit of wire here, and we just need to solder that directly onto there. So that should do it, hopefully. We'll see. This could go terribly wrong. I'm just going to come at it from a different direction, I think. I know you can't really see that, sorry. Let's move over here a little bit. Right, done. Hopefully that's a solid enough connection. It's not going anywhere. So that should be done. Right, we'll get the second one done. These take a good half an hour to solder because they're so fiddly. Right, there we go. Now I'm only using different coloured wires just so that I can differentiate, just in case I solder over the... Oh, no, that's not worked. Soldering iron's a bit dirty, so it's not working. There we go. So those connections are solid now. So these two lines are connected. So you could connect positive and negative at this end in power and light this whole row up. They don't need to be connected together at the end or anything. They're just going to terminate there. So that's the first part of it. I'll show you when it's finished. Right, so we're pretty much done. I've made the connections along here and along here, so it's following on again, so positive to positive, negative to negative, and daisy chained them around like that. I did start in the middle of the board, which is a mistake, because really you should start from the top and go down so that you know which side to solder on. I've got some long wires here, so completely finished, it terminates here, we don't need to do anything with that. In fact, I didn't need to strip it, but I did anyway. And the wires will come out here, so we've got two sections here to solder, and then we're going to plug it in and see what happens. So I'll just solder those and I'll get back to you. Right, so that's all soldered on. That's probably the ugliest bit of soldering I've ever done, but it works. Well, hopefully, we'll see. Now, I've got this little connector here, and it's a screw terminal, so I need to put positive into the positive end of the terminal. Let's just do that, and then we'll screw that shut. I really hope this works now, because it'd be a little bit embarrassing if it doesn't. And what am I talking about? I'll just edit it out. And then the negative, so let's screw that in. I know you can't really see what I'm doing here, but it's not the easiest thing to screw these. So they're all attached, and it's running all along the board. So I've got the power adapter up here. You can't really see it, but this will connect in. So fingers crossed. And there we go. Excellent. So that took all of 15 minutes just to solder together. And that's mainly because it's a little bit fiddly. But it seems to work perfectly. So when we attach that to a frame, in fact, let's do it now. Let's see what that looks like inside the frame. So here, we've got the frame here. So if I just take this bit out, and if I put the square mount in, let's put this bit in as well. This is just the bit that came with the frame, just so that we've got something to illuminate. If I pop that back in. So now we've got it at the front. You can't really see. And sorry, it's a bit noisy. And if we put this back on, so as you notice, we're going to be feeding the wires out from this small hole here. And we just pin it down. We can now turn it over to reveal the frame again and plug it in. And there we go, complete. Now that was pretty simple, all of that stuff, but the next bit will be making it intelligent. And that's where we plug the Arduino in. But I'm going to leave that for part 2 because I think it's been pretty long already. But these are really simple to make. So if you want to make one, in fact, or make 2 or make 3, then it's really cheap. These were £3.50 from IKEA. The LED strip was like £11, £12. So if you bought a bunch of those with 5 meters of LED strip, you could easily do 6. So I think that works out pretty cheap. How much is that? 6 times 3, 18. That's right, isn't it? £18. And then the other bit, so that's 30 quid for 6. Divide 30 by 6. £5. hang on, is that right? It might be right. About £5 each. Anyway, that's my math skills for you. I had none, I used to calculate. So about £5 each, really cheap. So they're under £10, but with all the other bits you need to buy, like soldering iron, all that kind of stuff, it's going to bump it up to around £10 each, I think. But if you've already got that stuff, it becomes really, really cheap. Now, with that to work, you only have one adapter, you'll have to daisy chain them all together, all the picture frames, and connect the positive to positive, all that stuff. But if you've bought loads of other adapters, you can make them stand alone. So just give it a go. Alright, well, thanks for watching, and part 2 will include some intelligent illumination, I guess. This is just the basics, this is how you need to start, and then we'll get on to the transistors and the sensors after that. Alright, thanks for watching.